Blue Tomorrows, a David Lynch and Twin Peaks podcast centered around exclusive interviews. I'm Lee Tyrrell, and for this very first episode, my guest is the real-life owner of the Palmer House filming location, Mary Reber. In Twin Peaks: The Return, Mary was even cast as Alice Tremond and appeared in the very last scene of the show, sharing screen time with both Kyle MacLachlan and Sheryl Lee. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you enjoy our talk, which covers the work of David Lynch, the production of Twin Peaks, and more.
Hello.
Hello, Mary Reber.
Yes.
Excellent. Are you able to hear me okay? This is Lee.
Yeah, totally.
Alice Tremond herself. It's great to hear you.
Oh, yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from the north of England, so yeah, very British.
Oh, you are. Okay. All right. Oh, that's cool. But you're living in Florida, right?
No, I'm in England at the moment.
Oh, you're in England. Oh, my goodness. Wow, I feel special now.
Yeah, this is an international venture.
Oh, my goodness. What's your last name? Are you on Facebook too? Because I've got there's some people I know from the UK, and I was just wondering now we are Facebook friends, right?
No, we're not actually. I'm quite new to the Twin Peaks fandom, to be honest. I've only just finished my full watch about 2 months ago, and this whole Twitter thing is my first step into it.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, how do you like it?
I'm absolutely obsessed. I watched the vast majority of it about 3 years ago, but I never finished it because of various reasons. I've been excited to ever since, and yeah, it has not disappointed.
Wow. Yeah. I've only seen 3 all the way through. So if you're a first-time watcher and you've seen 1 and 2, and then you see Fire Walk with Me, 3 is really different. I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, completely, yeah. And to be honest, it was more of the kind of thing that I was looking for as well, so it was right up my street.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Well, here I am. I'm ready to interview.
So I thought we'd start at the start, and I mean, this is something that I'm sure a lot of listeners already know and that you've talked about a lot, but not only are you the actual real-life owner of the Palmer House, where it was filmed, but you were cast as the in-universe owner as well. So I wanted to go right back to the start as to how that started, which was with a note on the door, right?
Yes. My ex and I had just purchased this house in 2014, and we were just running around doing some errands and came back, and there was a door saying basically to get a hold of the location manager because they wanted to film a movie here. Well, with all the talk that we had heard recently about Twin Peaks, and this being the Palmer House, we assumed that this was probably going to be Twin Peaks. But from the very beginning, it was it was kind of mysterious because nobody really discussed any details about it. So we talked to the location manager, and he just said that a director from Hollywood would be coming out in January, and this was like in November of 2014. So that's how that all started.
And there's this great video on YouTube that any fan should watch if they haven't already, Mary Reber in the Palmer House, where within it you say that you had already seen Twin Peaks, so you were a fan already?
I was a fan, but I didn't have to wait the 25 years like everybody else did because I only really started watching it about maybe 6 or 7 years before we purchased the house, just because I was raising little kids at the time and I was watching other programs on TV, and I remember the music. The music was kind of haunting, and I do remember that coming on, but I never did watch it when it first aired.
So, one thing I was really eager to ask you about was quite early on, I believe David Lynch himself came around to do like a check of the place and everything like that.
Yes. So what happened there was we found out that a director from Hollywood was going to be coming out. He did come out himself on January 1st, which was typical of Mr. David Lynch to show up on New Year's Day. And he brought Sabrina and his first director, assistant director. And I think what he was doing is he just wanted to see a couple of the sites that they were going to film, make sure that everything was intact. People were willing to share their space with this incredible movie. And I think he just wanted to see it firsthand. That's just kind of the way he does things, I think.
And did you find him to be as affable, as friendly as everybody says he is, and as he seems any time I see any footage of him?
David Lynch is like one of the nicest people I've ever met. He walked in and just really very charming, very kind, but definitely here to check the place out. And his wheels were turning. He was working. He really likes aesthetics, so he really appreciated my the crown molding in the house and the age of the house, and these old houses, like this one's almost 100 years old. I think he just really appreciates the aesthetic, and kind of just walked around and looked, and I was a little surprised he didn't spend too much time wanting to see the fan, but now I know why, because the majority of what was to be filmed here was outside, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything about what they were doing or any of the backstory or anything. So, yes, he was very super kind man, and he was here 3 times before they filmed in October of that year.
So it still had the fan intact. I wasn't sure I was aware of that.
Of what? Pardon me?
It still had the fan there then, did it? I wasn't actually sure of that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I was kind of surprised. Most everybody who comes here wants to see the fan, of course, but he just kind of walked around, spent a little bit of time in the living room, and we just chatted for a little bit. And like I said, I was really surprised he didn't want to spend time upstairs or anything. But that was part of the mystery itself, too, because when they were here, the 3 times before they filmed, they spent a lot of the time outside, and that was to prepare for the finale scene. But again, I didn't know that either. Nobody knew anything that was going on, which is crazy in this social media world.
Yeah, it's incredible what a tight lid they were able to keep on it. And that leads perfectly into one of the things I was going to ask, which is that I know very much that David Lynch was very much about retaining the mystery. And I've seen a lot of documentaries about the making of Twin Peaks and him refusing to answer questions on the actor's part and stuff, which is cool to keep that mystery. But so then you didn't know or have any insight that that was the final scene of the show?
Absolutely not. No. They filmed at Tweets, the Double R first, and then they came here and actually shot the finale scene in October, proceeded to spend the whole next year filming, and that came out the year after that even. So no, nobody knew anything about it. In fact, when we watched it along with everybody else, nobody knew when their part was going to come on as well. So I had no idea this was going to be the finale scene at all.
So
and
sorry, go on.
No, I didn't know it was going to be the finale scene at all. That's why, like, when I was watching, I was watching all the way through, and then you get to part 17, it still hadn't aired yet. So I figured, oh wow, this is going to be the ending, I think. And then there's only like 5 minutes left, and there it is. But I think that kind of added to the mystery for me too.
So I assume that, well, you'd watched Twin Peaks before. Were you a fan of David Lynch's work otherwise? Had you seen much of his movies?
I hadn't seen a lot of his movies. I knew about Blue Velvet. I knew about Dune and Eraserhead and all the others that he did, Lost Highway. I hadn't myself seen too many of them. Since then, yes, I have seen quite a few. And I think he's a remarkable, just extraordinary man and a director. He's an incredible talent. So I'm really glad I really, through Twin Peaks, got to even know his other works.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of fans know that it's kind of pointless to try and pin down those works, to try and come up with any definitive answers. So in no way when I ask you this question am I trying to get under the skin of something David Lynch might have told you, or some kind of definitive answer. But one thing I was interested in is how you felt your character fit into the show when you first saw it, like some of your own theories, some of your own thoughts.
You know, I think the beauty of this whole thing is the Tremonds have presented themselves in other parts of the show, at Fire Walk with Me and in the regular season. And I never really understood Mrs. Tremond's role. Though I knew I was going to be Alice Tremond, one of the things that I kind of ignored was trying to figure out who she was. And it was one of the things I really didn't feel compelled to talk about or was supposed to talk about, is who my character was. So I still to this day really don't know who Alice Tremond really is. And that's what makes it kind of a mystery, kind of exciting to me too, is that she was part of the show. I mean, you remember the Tremond name and the Chalfont name, but Alice Tremond, to be honest, I played the role, but I seriously knew who she was really supposed to be. And I think that's good. Sometimes I think that's why we continue talking about all this, is because we don't have the answers. There's kind of a beauty to that.
Absolutely. Well, maybe his most challenging film, Inland Empire, which is like 3 hours long and very, very confusing. I know Laura Dern and Justin Theroux, two of the leads themselves, have said in interviews they kind of spent their off time when not filming trying to figure out what it was about and never being really able to get there, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Totally. No, so I'm in good company there, aren't I? I mean, it's like, they're extremely seasoned actors, and so I don't feel so bad right now not really knowing who I was supposed to be, because they were in the same position.
No, absolutely. And I've heard this a lot from actors working with David Lynch, and I think it is absolutely one of his powers, for sure. And one thing I did want to ask about, like, the actual process of filming your scene was, I know you only did 2 takes, and I wondered if you remembered any significant difference between the two.
You know, I think that's a really good question. Thank goodness it only took 2 takes. I was pleased, but then I'm working with 2 incredible actors too, so that made it easier. No, there wasn't a main difference. I think that we went through it the first time. He tweaked it just a touch, but not to really change the whole mood or the theme of what he was trying to do. I think it's just, we finished 1 take, and then he was asked, or he said that was really a really good take. And somebody asked him, they said, well, wasn't it perfect? And he goes, nothing's perfect. So I think David Lynch actually just does things a couple times. And then that way too, you can draw from the first take or the second take and put together whatever you want. I think it's always good to do something twice at least. So I'm just glad it only took 2 takes. So, but it was fun. It was fun.
How was it working against such huge actors as well, and probably the 2 most important characters of the whole show?
You know, I love all the actors on the show. If I could have picked 2, those would have been the 2. The 2 of them were incredible. Kyle MacLachlan, I mean, you've seen him do interviews and such, but he's just an incredible man, really nice man. And Sheryl Lee is just super sweet. And in hair and makeup, we chatted for a little bit, so that was kind of nice being able to talk to them and see them before we did the scene, so you kind of feel like you almost know each other a little bit. We did a practice, and then we did the scenes, and it just worked. It was really incredible, but it was incredible working with those 2, because those 2 work really well together. So, like I say, I mean, who doesn't like looking at Kyle MacLachlan when you're doing a scene? and then, I mean, he's a nice man to look at. And then you've got Sheryl Lee standing there too, who's just a wonderful, warm person. So after the first take, both of them looked at me and said, "You're doing a really great job." And that just made me kind of relax. So I think the second take was probably better than the first for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just fantastic to hear. And one of the reasons that I am such a fan of this show is, like, whenever you go into behind the scenes material, documentaries, things like that, it's not just David Lynch, but the entire cast, the entire crew, just seem to be made up of the most warm-hearted, good, creative people around. And it seems to follow Twin Peaks around, like in its fandom as well, just the same, which leads me into the question of, I know you've had a lot of people coming to the Palmer House, kind of to do a pilgrimage as big Twin Peaks fans. And I wondered if you could talk about some of the more positive experiences that you've had, because I know you have met a lot of these people.
I have, and that's one of my favorite things. In this day and age, it's kind of a strange phenomenon to invite people into your home, shut both doors, walk them upstairs and everything, and not have a little bit of fear or a little bit of kind of wondering, is this really the best idea? But this is such a close-knit group of people that one of the fans doesn't want to ruin it for one of the other fans. And you can tell, you can do some digging and making sure that people really are fans of the show. But I think for me, when they walk in, a lot of them are very nervous. A lot of them have had trauma. A lot of them tell me about their trauma. I feel very privileged to be part of their personal side of their story that they share with me. And I think that I try to make them feel at ease when they come in. And we just have the best camaraderie. I've met the best, most kind people, very artistic, very intelligent people. But I love seeing, my gift is I love seeing them being touched. There's people that haven't seen this house since the show first came on in 89 and 90 because the woman who lived here was elderly and she didn't allow people in the home. So I'm able to do that. I'm able to pick that up. And when people go from the living room to the hallway and look upstairs and see the fan, I mean, I've seen people cry. I've seen people like clutch their heart. They start crying. I mean, what a cool thing to be part of, to touch that many people. And all I'm doing is I'm just communicating a little bit with them and allowing them to see the Palmer home. I think I'm really the one who gets the gift. And I know that, that sounds a little strange, but it's just really cool seeing people from way back when being able to see what they've wanted to see.
No, that is really, really interesting. And just that anybody could have owned the Palmer House at that time. This leading me to a question I wasn't sure I was going to ask. But yeah, anybody could have owned that house. And somebody who was really like not open to everything that had to happen, all of the filming, not open to taking the role that might have come up, not open to all the fans coming round. And there's a lot of this kind of thing in season 3 with everything coming together perfectly. Like, we know, sadly, so many of the cast members have now sadly died very soon after it was filmed as well. It was
very sad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And one note I did put down, as I say, I wasn't sure I was going to ask this or not, but do you believe in a kind of fate, Mary? Because you were just the right person to be living at that house.
Yeah, I do kind of. I also see David Lynch he's so intuitive, and he gets an idea, and his big thing is he gets an idea, and these ideas come, and if you just sit and wait for those ideas to come, and then you can flesh them out, it's like one of the best things. I was very lucky to get into this house because it needed a lot of work. And I was able to get it fixed up. It really needed a lot of work, and I almost did purchase this house. I'm glad I did. I think it looks a lot better than it did before. But yes, that was during a really hard time in my life too, because it was just right before I got divorced. And it was kind of a shot in the arm, and it just all seemed to work together for me and for the crew and for the rest of the cast too. It all just worked together. They were here for 2 weeks, and it was one of the best times of my life. It was very healing for me. I got to meet some of the best people. The whole crew is wonderful. I can't complain about one person. Everybody was wonderful. So it was for me as much as it was for them. But yeah, I do believe in a little bit of that, to be honest with you, because I think it all worked really well.
Yeah, there's just so many things when I think about that third series where it just all came together perfectly and just in time.
It did.
I feel like we do have to mention, since it's happened so recently, how sad it is. We've just lost Al Strobel, the one-armed man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's really sad how we've lost so many. I just posted something not long ago that we need to just take what these people gave us and keep it going, keeping the love and the creativity that they infused into this show, this movie, and just keep it going, because there's just so much love from like Catherine Coulson, the log lady, and all the people that have passed. It's family. It's like you grieve for family, and that's how I think people are grieving, is like their family, and they were a part of their world for many, many years. So it's very sad to lose like Julie Cruz too. I mean, but her music is timeless. Julie is timeless. And that's a gift.
I've been so pleased to see on Twitter, as kind of a relatively new member of the Twin Peaks community or fandom and everything, just how much this is alive. Like it's huge, and we're 5 years on now already from season 3. Yeah, and it just seems like there's a complete wellspring of Twin Peaks love on social media. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm trying my best to keep it going, just because I know that there's a lot of people I haven't met. There's a lot of people I'd still like to meet. Anybody that wants to come and visit, I mean, I'm more than happy to let them visit as long as I'm here. And I've just met some wonderful people that have changed my life as well. So I don't think anything like this is ever going to stop. I think it just keeps going. And that's what's really cool. And that's something that David Lynch and his ideas have created, is something that is just moving forward in a really, really positive way for a lot of people, even the younger generation.
Yeah, he manages, through his imagery and through the mystery that we talked about, to create I find it's something fundamental that, it is timeless, that manages to just hit through no matter what. If you've experienced those feelings, if you've seen and felt the kind of things that it's trying to express, it hits through no matter what.
Yeah, he covers all the emotions, let me tell you. He covers everything. I think that's what appeals to people, is all of their senses are touched when they're watching something that David Lynch has done. You're like, I mean, it's just incredible. I think, to be honest with you, the best way to watch season 3 is like he said, and that's in a completely dark room with headphones on. David Lynch is big on sound. He put a lot of money into the sound, from what I understand. And I think you miss a lot if you don't put the headphones on and sit in a dark room and just really, really focus. That's how I'm going to do it the second time around, because I watched it the first time around with everybody else. So that's how I'm going to do it.
I'm so glad you've mentioned that, because, sound is so important to what he does.
So important.
Yeah.
Scratching of records and whispers and sounds, that's just something that human beings don't slow down and listen to, is sound. We're always so busy and talking and making noise, and sometimes it's just good. And I think he gets that. You sit and you just let it all come in, and it touches all your emotions, and it's an experience. It's epic, I think.
He's a man of absolute detail, and you see this in the sets design and everything as well, which leads me to one of my final questions, because I don't want to take up too much of your time today. But I know that they actually filmed inside the house as well, and that a fair amount of extensive work was done to make it for Sarah Palmer and things like that. So I know you've talked about this before, but I wondered if you could discuss a little bit what it was like to have the production team so deep into your house and things like that, because I know you enjoyed it.
I absolutely loved it. To me, it was sitting back. That was almost like a its own production. I sat back. I watched everybody do their part, from the painters to the medics to people like taking every single thing out of my living room, putting cardboard down and carpet and furniture, bringing furniture in. That was a production to me. I just sat back and I knew I needed to just sit back and enjoy that. And I did. And like I said, they could have done anything here, because they put it back together just the way it was. There weren't any problems. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was overly expensive. I mean, they had to repaint the room. They had to cover the lawn with tarp and put fake grass all over the front lawn, just for Hawk and Sarah's scene, which is incredible. I don't know if people notice that, but if you look again at the Hawk and Sarah scene, when he comes to the door, the lawn is just it's dead. The bushes are dead. The bushes are fake. And when I show people pictures, they look at him and they're like, oh man, I never noticed that, because I was looking at Hawk going to the door and their exchange. But there was so much put into each scene very carefully, and it was just, I don't know. I'd love to been a little bit more relaxed and just watch the whole thing over again. It was just incredible.
Yeah, that's a fantastic detail that I didn't notice, and I will keep my eye out for that in the future.
Yes.
I just had one more question that's a little outside of the Twin Peaks world, and it's that we were talking about location there and how important it can be, and I myself have managed to visit the location of another favourite show of mine, which is an old British 60s thing called The Prisoner. Was set in a really weird little Welsh village that's been kept pretty much exactly the same ever since it was filmed there. And so I've had that experience with that show. It was really surreal to me and fantastic and fascinating, as I'm sure it has been for everyone who's visited your home. I wondered if you could pinpoint a location that you might want to visit from a show or a film that you love so much.
Okay, let's turn this around then. I would love to come to the UK and see Downton Abbey.
Right,
where
okay.
that was filmed. That is like one of my favorites. And that's on my bucket list. I really want to come to the UK anyway, and I'd love to just go see, I'd love to see that whole surrounding area. I don't remember what the village is called that they used in Downton Abbey, but to me that would just be just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure myself, but obviously I've got more than enough experience with British villages, and I'm sure you'd love it. It can be beautiful, as long as you avoid the rain.
Yeah, Highclere Castle, I think, is the name of the castle.
Oh, right,
that
okay.
They use, Highclere. And there is a little surrounding town, and I know you've seen them, but I mean, that is just something to me that would just, I would just love that, because I love the history behind it. I love the era. That would be my dream.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that. It's been brilliant to have you on today, Mary. I nearly accidentally called you Alice then, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No, I feel very, very privileged. I thank you for your time as well, and this has been really fun. I really appreciate you and your questions, and hopefully this answers a few questions for you.
Yeah, you've given me some fascinating insights, and I really hope the fans will enjoy hearing from you again. Hopefully it won't be too long till I get this out there.
Yes, it would be fun. Yeah, it would be great. And if you have any other questions, you can ask me later on too, if you think of anything else that comes up. And I'm really glad you enjoyed Twin Peaks as much as a lot of the other people have. It's just, especially this being like one of your first times around, because not everybody watched it when it first came out. And I'm kind of interested to see what it's like for people that haven't seen it before.
Well, I think it's got an enduring appeal, and that it will just keep going. Because, as I say, I first tried it a few years ago and loved it back then. I've watched it this time with my partner, and it's been brand new to her, and she's loved it as well. So,
wonderful,
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's definitely a definite group of people that like it. Some haven't heard of it, but the ones who have just are fascinated, totally fascinated, and that's what's fun. They're already coming here excited and just in awe.
Thank you again for listening to this episode, and I merely hope that you've enjoyed my conversation with Mary. I have no idea when another episode of this might release, but I am going to be working on getting another interview as soon as I can. I've got a few people in mind, and I think we're going to build something really fun and really interesting for Twin Peaks and David Lynch fans here. I hope you'll come back in the future to check out more of my work, and until then, I just hope I've really given you something to think about.